We don't know how Christian's burden first got on his back, but he'd never wanted so badly to get rid of it. So Christian started to run, or did his best to, with that great load on his back. At the foot of a hill, he passed an open tomb. Above it, he found himself by a cross. As the shadow of the cross fell over him, suddenly the burden dropped from his shoulders and fell right off his back. It tumbled down the hill into the tomb, and he never saw it again, ever. Christian just couldn't believe it. He was astonished that gazing at the cross had set him free. As he stood there, 3 shining ones appeared. The first said, "You are washed clean." The second took away his muddy clothes and gave him bright new ones. The third handed him a paper scroll. "Guard this carefully," he said. "Only give it up when you reach the gate of the beautiful city." Christian felt as light as air. He gave 3 jumps of joy. Now there was a wall on each side of this next stretch of road. And as Christian set off again, free of his burden, 2 strangers suddenly jumped over the wall. One was called Mr. Bluff and the other Mr. Pretender. "Excuse me," Christian said, "where have you come from?" "We were born in the land of emptiness, and we're on our way to the beautiful city," they replied. "Then why did you jump over the wall instead of coming through the little wooden gate? Don't you know that anyone who climbs in a different way is a thief?" "Oh, it's a long way to the wooden gate," answered Mr. Bluff. "Our people always take this shortcut. They've done it for hundreds of years, so it can't be wrong." "But it's against the rules." "It doesn't matter how we got in," said the men. "If we're in, we're in." "I walk by the master's rules. You go your own way," said Christian. The 2 men didn't answer. They just looked at each other and laughed. The 3 continued together until they reached a crossroads. One wide road went left, another wide road went right, but the narrow road went straight on up the great black hill difficulty. Which road would they all choose? Well, Mr. Bluff chose to go left, which led him into a dark wood. This road was called Danger, and he lost his way forever. Mr. Pretender chose to go right, which led him onto rough ground full of hummocks and holes. This road was called Ruin. He stumbled and fell, and he never got up again. Christian looked at both the other roads and then started to walk briskly straight up the hill. But soon he was wondering if he'd made a good choice. He went from running to walking, from walking to clambering, and soon it was so steep he was slithering on his hands and knees. Halfway to the top, just as he was about to give up, he spied a shelter for tired pilgrims, built by the Lord of the Hill. Here Christian sat down gratefully to rest. He pulled out the paper scroll the shining one had given him and read it to cheer himself up. Soon he'd fallen fast asleep in the afternoon sunshine. When he woke, it was evening, so he hurried on. Suddenly he heard running footsteps coming towards him. Out of the twilight appeared 2 men, Mr. Scared and Mr. Distrust. "Whatever's the matter?" asked Christian. You're going the wrong way." "We were going to the beautiful city and had climbed the hill difficulty," said Mr. Scared, "but the further we went, the more dangers we met, so we're giving up and going back." "We met 2 lions on the road," added Mr. Distrust. "If we'd have come within paw's reach, they'd have torn us to pieces." So Mr. Scared and Mr. Distrust ran back down the hill, leaving Christian in a fix. "If I go on, I'll die," he told himself. And if I go back to my own country, I'll die too. What shall I do? Then he remembered his scroll and felt for it in his coat. But though he looked everywhere for it, he couldn't find it. He must have dropped it. Without it, he could never enter the beautiful city. There was nothing for it but to go back. What a fool I've been, he told himself, as he retraced his steps, searching everywhere. It was growing darker all the time, and the night was full of creepy sounds. But although it was dark, when he reached the shelter, he found the scroll lying there. It must have slipped out while he was asleep.